what are some of the things that you would like recommend for a family who's moving with their kid?
So the first thing is, technically, if you want to be very, very like by the book, homeschooling is not legal in Greece, but it's like it's a big gray area, like most things in Greece are, and like we're doing it, right? We're doing homeschooling, right? And nobody really cares. Like they're not really, nobody's bothering us, and no one's saying anything. You just need to be aware that technically you're doing something that the government doesn't want you to do, but it seems like they're pretty liberal in looking the other way when it comes to like expats, especially if it's temporary. So like in our case, we're doing homeschooling because we moved in the middle of the school year. And our school offered offered online school. So we're not really doing, it's not traditional homeschooling. It's like it's a hybrid. He actually is going to school at his school that he left in Texas, right? And then as soon as that's over, we're going to enroll him here. So the first thing I would say is, if you're going to do that, just make sure you're aware that you're kind of on the down low, right? A little bit. You just don't want to be shouting from the rooftops for homeschooling. And then if you don't bring it up, nobody else will bring it up. And we know 3 other people who are doing it too, and the same thing. They just say like, if you don't say it, nobody's going to ask. Leave it alone, kind of that thing, right? Now, for enrolling school here, so we have looked at schools here, and the one piece of advice I would give people is just be careful. The schools are all different, right? They have different attitudes, kind of different, and they can be just 2 kilometers away from each other and be completely different cultures in the schools. So like we're right in the middle of between 2 schools. They're very close, like almost walking distance, both of them. One of them is very tolerant to people who don't speak Greek natively, like expats, foreign-born people, and the other one is not. Not that they're mean or anything like that to them. It's just that they're not as accommodating, right? So just what I would say is you got to find the right school for where you're coming from. And we did. We found it's right down the road. Like it's not a big deal. They've got probably 10% are foreign students that don't speak Greek, so they're very accommodating. Whereas the other school, also very close to us, was like nobody. Okay, so you don't just stick your kid into like the closest school. You kind of got to look around. We also looked at private schools. There's one really near Hanyad that's supposedly very good. It's also very expensive, of course, right? Because it's private. And if you have the money for that, they teach all in English. And I know there's one in Raklion too. It's all in English. Very good schools. They're very highly rated, but of course, that costs. So if you want public school, you just gotta make sure to pick the right one. That's all. And you're free to pick whatever one you want, right? So it's not like in the U.S. where you're assigned, like this is your house, this is your school for your house. Here, you go to any school you want. It's just your responsibility to get them there and get them back.
What advice would you give to somebody who, is thinking of relocating? Like, for instance, I spoke to a prospect the other day. She wants to convince her husband to move to Crete. He's not on board, but she is, and they want to retire there. So let's say if somebody is thinking about it, what would be your advice that you would give them to like make the move or like to get started, basically?
So the first thing is what I already said, which is keep your expectations for the first 3 months of stress. Okay, you don't just flip a switch and go, oh, I'm in a Greek life now and everything's great and I eat a Mediterranean diet and I just go to the beach every day. Like that doesn't happen, right? You have to work into that. So the first thing I would do, keep your expectations for that beginning period reasonable, right? The other ones, what we also talked about is in Greece, you have to roll with it. You can't fight Greece. Okay, Greece will always win. Okay, it has a culture, it has a way of doing things, and you have to adapt to it, right? And if you do, it's a great life. If you don't, it's not going to go well, right? You've got to kind of get with that program. So we already talked about those. The other thing I would say is you have to set yourself up to know you're going to make mistakes. There's no chance you're going to pull this off without accidentally blowing $1,000 on something you shouldn't have, right? Maybe not that much, but something. Picking the wrong thing, signing the wrong deal. Like you're gonna make mistakes because it's too much. There's so many variables that you're unfamiliar with, and there's so many things you don't understand. You just plan for it. And I did that before we left. I said, okay, I'm just going to assume Like, this is how much money I need. This is how much effort it's going to take. And I just said, like, I took that and I said, now I'm going to add 20% to my resources for screw ups, right? And then I'm just not going to think about it. Like, every time that happens, I'm going to go, yes, I know, I planned for that, right? You just have to let that go. And we've done that. I accidentally paid too much for a cell phone bill, like one time by $70 because I wasn't aware of how the contract worked, right? Now I am, and that $70 is gone, okay? And there's no way to know those things, right? So, besides the fact, prepare yourself for the move, prepare yourself for mistakes and just let it go, because like, it's just the cost of the move. That's all it is.